Hey, what's up? It's Harry, and today what I want to talk to you about is apathy, right? The emotion of apathy. And also, I gotta clarify, I'm not really sure if I can really call it an emotion per se, right? Because we're talking about apathy. And apathy usually means the lack of emotions, right? The lack of feeling in a sense, right? It's almost when you don't feel anything. And to a point that makes sense, but at the same time, not really, because no one's really in complete apathy. Because if you were in complete apathy, you would have just committed suicide or something, which you don't want to do, of course. So what that means is, even though you're in an apathetic state of mind, it means that you still in a sense of hope. You still have that sense of hope inside of you, and that keeps you going, right? If you're sitting here watching my video right now, the fact that you're watching this video, it tells me that there's still hope, that there's still some hope left inside of you. It means you're not completely dead yet, which is a very good thing, right? So apathy, right? Apathy is basically the suppression of all emotion, right? So normally what happens, right? We go through a very painful event, right? A traumatizing experience, for example, and we tend to suppress those emotions, right? Because on the one hand, as human beings, you know that so when you feel good, if something makes you feel good, it can also make you feel bad, right? So if you know that this specific something, whatever it may be, if it's gonna make you feel bad or like feel worse at some point, it makes you not want to feel emotions at all. And you come to in terms with yourself, you're like, well, um, what's the point? You start asking yourself, what's the point? And sure, if I lose hope and maybe I won't feel the good emotions anymore. I won't feel any more positive emotions per se. But even though I'm not feeling positive emotions, I still won't feel the negative emotions, right? Even though I'm not feeling good, at least I'll not feel good, right? At least I'll not feel good, right? At least I won't feel bad, right? I'll just stay where I am. And in the one sense, it could be a good thing. Let's say if you're going through a very extremely traumatizing and just overwhelming experience, for example, in that case, it may be a useful thing, right? Because it actually suppresses your emotions. So ideally, what you want to do, right? So let's give an example of not just human being, but let's say an animal, or let's say, yeah, an animal, right? So let's say a deer, right? Let's say a deer gets cornered, right? Now, two options, right? Cortisol response in the body of the deer. And the deer has two options, fight or flight. So either he can fight or flight. Chances are deer's not going to fight, right? Only option he has is to flight, right? In other words, just run away. But let's say if he's cornered, he has nowhere to go. Well, we have the freeze response. So the emotion is going to freeze, and that's kind of puts you in that state of apathy. He won't feel anything. So let's say if it's being hunted by a bear, cornered by a bear, the bear is going to eat its flesh, and the bear is not going to feel much because of the suppression of the emotions, if that makes sense, right? So now, for let's say for whatever reason, the bear decides I don't want to eat this deer. Maybe it's not hungry for whatever reason. Let's it go. The deer, what's going to happen is going to shake it off, right? It's going to have to like divert that energy somewhere, right? Just like, release some of that energy, right? Just pent up. So it's going to like shake it off. And normally that's the same thing with humans, right? We never really release properly, right? We just get this pent up source of energy, right? This pent up trauma, and we never fully heal, right? And you were gonna realize that, right? So if you have any sort of traumatic experiences, and let's say if you're in a state of apathy for whatever reason, you've probably been through some similar experiences in the past, which puts you in that freeze response. And ideally, so the solution to this, what you want to do is you want to dive into your body and let those emotions come up. So you let it. Now, a problem I had myself is I had trouble feeling, right? I would go into my body, I'm like, wait a sec, I don't feel anything. So a question comes up, right? So what does that feel like? In other words, what does not feeling anything feel like? What is my description? What is my experience of not feeling anything? Right? Because that in itself has a corresponding emotion to it, right? Or at least a corresponding sensation. So you have to dive into those sensations in your body and figure out where is that coming from. What's causing the sensation? How does having no sensations feel like? So dive into that. Dive into the numbness. So that's another thing you could do. So you'll focus on the subtle sensation instead, whereas instead of focusing on the crazy sensations, because what's going to happen if you focus on the crazy and the, crazy, like very emotionally overwhelming sensations, you're going to disregard the small subtle sensations, right? And you're going to miss out on those. So ideally, what you want to do, if you don't feel anything, focus on the small subtle sensations. It's not about feeling good. It's not about, releasing, for example. It's just more about diving in, right? So ideally, what you want to do is change your experience of the emotion of apathy, right? And the way you do that is becoming open to feeling again. As understand that as a human being, you're open to feeling. You want to feel again, right? Even doesn't matter how much trauma you've been through in your life, doesn't matter how much pain you've gone through ever in your life, you want to feel again, right? As human beings, right? We all want to feel again, right? So we have to allow it to happen. We have to let it happen. Let go of the resistance. Do not resist it, and just let it come up. If I personally don't feel anything, I'm gonna focus on the feeling of not feeling. What does not feeling feel like for me? What are the corresponding sensations to not feeling anything? And to my surprise, I do feel something. I notice the sensations, the tingling in my hands, maybe the chill down my spine, maybe this light pressure in my head or my chest or my stomach, right? It changes the experience I have of it. So it's about accepting it. One question I would like you to ask yourself if you don't feel anything, or let's say you feel any sort of negative emotion, right? Obviously, you want to get rid of that label, but why not reframe it? How about your goal in life is to feel what you're feeling? So if you feel bad, it's a good thing that you're feeling bad. If you're feeling anxious, it's a good thing that you're feeling anxious. If you feel angry, it's a good thing that you're feeling angry. Why is it a bad thing? Why label it as bad? It's something to think about. Anyhow, I'll be making more videos on this in the future. Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. Thank you.